Oil, the mighty liquid that powers our world and drives our daily lives. It's often hailed as black gold, a substance that's not just valuable, it's indispensable. It has influenced nations, economies, and global politics for well over a century. The discovery of oil has brought unprecedented wealth to some and unprecedented chaos to others. In this video, I'll talk about oil and how it evolved into an essential aspect of our existence. Welcome to World and Me Project with Dr. Yeva Aleksanyan. Please press the like button, share our videos, and subscribe to our channel for more videos. You could also visit our website at www.worldandme.info and read articles related to the subjects covered in our posted videos. I would like to thank everyone who made this project possible. A special thank you to Designer Smiles of Colorado and Dr. Margarita Aleksanyan for giving me a healthy and beautiful smile. The story of oil is as old as human civilization itself. Picture this. In the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, our ancestors were already using crude oil to waterproof and illuminate. The Sumerians even had a word for it, naft, which evolved into naphtha. In the Middle East, oil that was naturally seeping to the surface was used to waterproof boats. Oil was also used for construction purposes. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, ancient China was tapping into the wonders of oil. They used it to fuel fires and to boil seawater to create salt for seasoning food and distilling water for drinking. They even fashioned bamboo pipelines to transport natural gas to illuminate or light their capital Peking around 400 BC. Fast forward to 340 AD, and the Chinese ingeniously crafted the first known oil well. Imagine this. They used iron drill bits and bamboo pipes without modern drilling techniques. The process of breaking the ground by chipping away at rock might have taken months, but they were making strides in the earth. Ancient Greeks too knew the value of oil. They used oil lamps not just for light, but for special religious ceremonies. Their insights were striking. Greeks knew oil's value even if they couldn't yet grasp its full potential. By 600 AD, the Byzantines wielded crude oil as a fearsome weapon, the famous Greek fire that could turn the tides of battles. Greek fire was designed to set enemy ships on fire using a flammable mixture sprayed from a flame-throwing weapon. Greek fire was likely composed of naphtha and quicklime. Therefore, oil wasn't just valuable, it was also instilling fear. A 7th century Armenian scholar, mathematician, and geographer Anania Shirakatsi also wrote about uses of oil, some of which included medicinal contexts. The Middle Ages brought the alchemists, the proto-scientists of their time. They dabbled with crude oil and so-called rock oil and stumbled upon remarkable distillation techniques. Distillation would become the secret behind refining oil, leading to the creation of kerosene. Lighting and heating were about to change. In 1854, something extraordinary happened. George Bissell and his business partners sent a sample of crude oil from Pennsylvania to Professor Benjamin Silliman at Yale University for analysis. Bissell hoped to distill this mysterious substance into lamp fuel, and he dreamed of profiting from it. Silliman's revelations was groundbreaking. The sample could indeed be distilled into kerosene. This was the catalyst. The exploration and drilling for crude oil began, marking the beginning of the Petroleum Era. The oil boom of the 19th century made names like Rockefeller and Getty to be synonymous with vast fortunes built on oil. And it did not stop there. With the technological breakthroughs of the 20th century, oil emerged as a preferred energy source. The key drivers of that transformation were the electric light bulb and the automobile. Automobile ownership and demand for electricity grew exponentially, and with them increased the demand for oil. World War I brought forth an invaluable discovery, the strategic significance of oil, particularly Middle Eastern oil. The tides of war had shifted and oil was about to change the course of history. Before and during World War I, the mighty British Royal Navy underwent a radical transformation, abandoning coal and using oil as the fuel. This shift dramatically extended their operational reach, sealing the fate of naval warfare. To secure this vital resource, the British forged alliances with Arab tribes, rallying them against the Ottoman Empire. Oil, the lifeblood of mechanized warfare, could power tanks, aircrafts, and mighty naval fleets, and the world's superpowers were about to embark on a relentless race for its control. By 1919, gasoline sales had surpassed those of kerosene. Oil was not just a fuel, it was a strategic asset that powered ships, trucks, and military airplanes of the World War I. The world had witnessed the rise of oil prominence in both energy and warfare. Then came World War II, a cataclysm that underscored the strategic importance of oil. For all parties, controlling access to strategic resources, including oil, was crucial. The British and Americans, now allies, understood that their military campaigns were very much dependent on controlling Middle Eastern oil-rich lands. Some scholars even claim that Churchill hoped for an escalation of conflict between the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany, speculating that such a situation would keep Germany engaged in Europe and potentially opening a second front for Hitler and preventing Germany from turning eastward towards crucial resources. Overall, all warring parties during World War II desperately wanted and needed sources of oil. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact of 1939, which was a secret accord between the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany, was about far more than just spheres of influence. It was a deal that had far-reaching geopolitical and economic implications, some of which involved the supply of oil and wheat to Nazi Germany. With this pact, the Soviet Union was effectively fueling the German war machine, a story that we'll explore in our upcoming videos on land and wheat. Going back to Middle Eastern oil, realizing the importance of oil and especially of Middle Eastern oil, after World War II, the United States became a major player in the region. As early as 1938, American companies had already drilled the first oil well in Saudi Arabia, tapping into what would soon be identified as largest source of oil in the world. The Arabian American Oil Company emerged as the cornerstone of U.S. interests in the Middle East. But Saudi Arabia was just the beginning. Before and after World War II, astonishing oil and gas discoveries rippled beyond Saudi borders. Companies like Gulf Oil, British Petroleum, Texaco, and Chevron were actively involved in oil concessions and exploration efforts, leading to major discoveries in places like Kuwait and Libya. Meanwhile, on the other side of Atlantic, South America witnessed its own oil and gas awakening. Based on these substantial discoveries, a powerful cartel comprising 7 major companies emerged, which went on to exert significant control over the global oil and gas industry for a considerable part of the 20th century. This powerful consortium became famously known as Seven Sisters. The members of this influential group included Exxon, Royal Dutch or Shell, British Petroleum, Mobil, Texaco, Gulf Oil, and Chevron. Seven Sisters, these colossal oil companies, they weren't bound by borders. They reigned across the globe, from the heart of America to the shores of Europe, from Asia to the deserts of Middle East and Africa. These giants of industry shaped the post-World War II energy and the economic landscape of both producing and consuming nations. They held an unmatched level of control over the world's oil and gas reserves, production and distribution, making them dominant players in the global energy arena. Unsurprisingly, they had power, they had influence, an influence that could shape geopolitics. Yet, like all such stories, a pushback was inevitable. The 1950s witnessed a shift that transferred control over oil and gas production and pricing. For both economical and geopolitical reasons, the leaders of oil-producing countries began reclaiming and asserting authority for control of their country's oil and gas resources. And then, in 1960, the governments of Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, and Iran joined hands to create a powerhouse, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or simply known as OPEC. They wanted a collective power to dictate oil prices, production, and future concession rights. This initiative itself was a game changer. Although OPEC had little impact during its first decade of existence, the tides turned in the early 1970s. In the early 1970s, the world was hit by a storm, a perfect storm: soaring energy demand, renegotiations of terms of business in Libya by Gaddafi, and the fourth Arab-Israeli conflict, all culminated in 1973 oil crisis. OPEC's oil embargo showed the world just how dependent it had become on Middle Eastern oil. The world had never felt so acutely the grip of Middle Eastern oil. For a deeper dive into Arab-Israeli conflict, check our video on Yom Kippur and its enduring consequences. You can find the link to the video in the description. Throughout its history, the United States has viewed OPEC as a potential threat to its access to affordable energy, since OPEC is able to influence and set high global oil prices. Additionally, the current U.S. policies of reducing its reliance on Middle Eastern oil, where OPEC holds significant sway, can give rise to diplomatic challenges with those countries tied to the U.S. interests. Oil has been at the center of countless international conflicts. The quest for control over oil resources has sparked wars, coups, and territorial disputes. The Gulf Wars, including Iran-Iraq War, the Arab-Israeli conflict, and the ongoing tensions in the South China Sea are just few examples of the struggle for oil control and/or its profound consequences. Russia's invasion of Ukraine also holds a significant oil and gas dimension. Throughout the 20th century, the drastic increase in oil demand positioned the Middle East as the epicenter of the global energy trade. As a result, some oil-rich nations have enjoyed immense wealth and prosperity, funding infrastructure projects, education, and healthcare. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates have harnessed their oil resources to build higher standards of living for their citizens. However, the story took a different turn for certain oil-rich nations, turning their oil and gas abundance into a complex geopolitical chessboard. Some oil-rich countries paid a very high price for having the very resource that everyone else wants. Think of Gulf Wars of 1990, 1991, and 2003. They were partially driven by the desire to secure oil reserves in Kuwait and Iraq. In more recent times, the Syrian war, civil war, the Yemeni civil war have also had oil-related dimensions. Overall, Iraq, Iran, Libya, and many, many more reaped the benefits but also paid the ultimate price for being oil-rich countries. One of our upcoming videos will be devoted to resource curse phenomenon, which refers to countries where the abundance of natural resources like oil leads to corruption, inequality, and underdevelopment. Nigeria, for instance, has struggled with governance issues and economic disparities despite its vast oil wealth. In recent decades, the race for oil and gas resources has become even more intense. Major powers seek to secure resource reserves to ensure their long-term energy security. Emerging economies are demanding a bigger slice of the global energy pie as well. As a result, we observe a high-stake competition that frequently escalates into international confrontations and conflicts, much like the fierce showdown we've witnessed over Eastern Mediterranean gas reserves in terms of Cyprus-Turkey and Greece-Turkey disputes, and the potential for energy-related conflicts. The same dynamic unfolds, unfortunately, in the disputed waters of South China Sea. Multiple countries, including China, Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, and Taiwan have overlapping territorial claims in the South China Sea. The South China is believed to have significant energy resources, including oil and natural gas. The presence of these resources has heightened the importance of the region for countries involved. The disputes over territorial claims and access to energy resources have led to heightened geopolitical tensions in the region. But this isn't just about the regional stability. The South China Sea's energy dispute has far-reaching consequences with implications not only for regional stability, but also for global trade. The South China Sea is a crucial route for global trade, facilitating the passage of a significant portion of the world's seaborne trade. We'll talk about trade routes and roads in our upcoming videos as well. Far to the north, in the ice-covered Arctic waters, the seabeds hold vast reaches of resources. The Arctic's resource-rich seabeds are also source for heightened geopolitical tensions among nations who wish to secure and have the ability to secure their energy futures. More recently, in December 2023, Venezuela claimed to be moving ahead with plans to take over a huge oil-rich territory in neighboring Guyana. This threat immediately drew international concerns and actions. Overall, energy security is a concern, especially for nations reliant on oil and gas imports, and as well as exports. Any disruption in energy supplies, whether due to geopolitical conflicts or external factors, leaves countries vulnerable and at risk. For instance, recently the world witnessed the issues related to the European Union's reliance on Russian gas and the effects of supply disruption on Union's economies as Russia used oil and gas as a weapon. Over-reliance on oil and gas has had major implications, particularly in the developing world. In the 2000s, the combination of mounting tensions in the Middle East, soaring demand from China, a weakening US dollar, dwindling petroleum reserves, and speculative financial activities sent crude oil prices skyrocketing. The price of crude oil increased from $30 a barrel in 2003 to $60 in 2005 and eventually peaked in July 2008 at $147. This sparked what we know as the 2008 recession. The 2008 global recession, also known as Triple F crisis, wasn't just a financial crisis. It was rather a food, fuel, and financial crisis. While most are familiar with the financial side of the 2008 crisis, it's important to grasp the crucial role that played by fuel prices and energy security in 2008 global crisis. Oil-rich nations exert significant geopolitical influence on the world stage. Their energy resources become bargaining chips in international negotiations and relations. The largest oil exporting countries continue to be Saudi Arabia, Russia, Iraq, Canada, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Iran, Nigeria, and Norway. And while the United States exports oil, it also imports significant amount, leaving it a net importer of this precious resource. The Middle East continues to play a vital role in global politics due to its oil wealth. To ensure a stable oil supply, the Western countries have often supported authoritarian regimes in the region. Simultaneously, their relationships with oil-rich nations have drawn criticism for turning a blind eye to human rights abuses. The West is as careful as possible in its actions and criticism when it comes to Middle Eastern countries that have large oil resources. The Middle East is the center of the conflict of interest and attention for so many big players that when a conflict starts in that region, it immediately draws international attention, and the opinion about the possibility of the Third World War is immediately circulated in the international media. Yet, crises like the oil and gas upheavals of the 1970s, environmental disasters, and mounting air pollution have pushed conversations about transitioning to cleaner and sustainable energy sources. At one point, it even seemed that the world was close to finding an alternative to oil in the form of nuclear energy. But then catastrophic events of Chernobyl happened. In recent decades, as the world increasingly faces environmental challenges, we have witnessed a shift towards renewable energy sources and cleaner technologies. But this hasn't been without challenges. The shift towards cleaner and more sustainable energy sources has created geopolitical tensions affecting oil and gas producing nations' economic interests. While we can hope that sustainable and more affordable energy sources will reach every corner of the world sooner than later, the reality is that such transition may take decades and decades. So, in the near future, oil and gas are likely to remain central players in world's energy landscape, and this implies that oil and gas will continue to be sources of tension and conflicts in the near future. This was World in Me project with Dr. Yeva Aleksanyan. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please press the like button, share our videos, and subscribe to our channel for more videos. Stay tuned for our next video, and I'll see you soon.